Yep, Geis turned 100 years old this week. Anybody know who she is? It's really retro here. She really played an incredible role in history. In 1944, she collected a bunch of papers that had been written by a 13-year-old girl and shoved them in a drawer so that the Nazis would not find the papers. The girl, who she'd been hiding for about 2 years, had been betrayed and was led away to a concentration camp where just a couple of months later her life was ended. But her story we all know. Her story of faith and courage and bravery and incredible optimism and will to live while she was being hunted down by a murderous regime and eventually put to death. The young 13-year-old girl, of course, is who? Anne Frank. And yet, Geis is the woman who protected her, who hid her for 2 years, and who took her papers, her diary, and put them away so that her story could be told. A story that has brought inspiration and hope and encouragement to countless people ever since that day. I want to do something like Geis this morning. Not nearly as brave, but something very similar. I want to grab the story that is being written by the Prairie Chapel. And I want to capture it and I want to put it down this morning. So that we can all just take a little time to reflect on our story. Because our story says something fascinating. Every church is writing a story. Did you know that? Every church is writing a story. The co-author is God, but it is also written in a very real way by you and by me. Every church tells a story about God, a story about life, a story about a reality, a story about what could be as opposed to what merely is. And the Prairie Chapel is only 12 years old. In May of this year, we become a teenager. Woo! And let me just tell you right now, the wild times are about to begin. We're going to enter our teenage years. And we have been really tame up until now. But we're going to hit our rebellious phase. We're going to have a little bit of fun together. And so there's only a few chapters that have been written in this story that is the Prairie Chapel. But have you ever wondered, what is our story? What are the themes that are already beginning to emerge that make us who we are, that tell our unique story that is being written by God and us in this world? A story, by the way, that others will read and know and be impacted by. I've taken time the last couple of weeks to just really reflect on the last 12 years. 8 of those years, 8.5, almost 9, I know I've been here. Before that are stories that I have heard over the years from those who were around. And there are several themes that emerge that are really part of our story as a church. Here's the first theme that emerges. God blesses the bold move. That's one of the themes in our story. God blesses the bold move, the outrageous move, the crazy move. You know, really, that's a story we find out through the history of God's people. God's always blessed bold moves. One time when Jesus was here on earth, he was at a person's home. And he was doing some teaching, and he attracted a very large crowd. Part of that crowd were the religious elite, the learned, the scholars, and they kind of gathered in that home to hear what Jesus said, just to check it out and see whether or not they should give him their seal of approval or not. But then just masses of ordinary people showed up. They filled the home to overflowing. People were standing outside the home straining to try to just hear what was going on. Jesus was given a seminar about life. A seminar about God. A seminar about reality. And people were hanging on every word. Some to learn and be changed. Some to judge and condemned. When suddenly, coming down the road, are three guys. And they're carrying a pallet, and on that pallet is their buddy, their friend. Their buddy's paralyzed. No use of his legs. Can't walk. No hope. And they had this outrageous idea that somehow if they could just get their buddy to Jesus, that somehow Jesus could heal the guy, could heal their friend, could turn his life completely around. But when they got there, the crowd was so thick, they couldn't elbow their way through the crowd to get to Jesus. Nobody would give way. They all wanted to hear. And so they're thinking, okay, what are we going to do? We can't get this guy to Jesus. And one of them gets this really outrageous idea. He says, hey, let's go get some rope. And then let's climb up on the roof. And let's rip a hole in the roof. And let's lower our buddy down right in front of Jesus. And the other two guys did what all guys do. They went, yeah, that sounds like an awesome plan. We don't know the person who owns this home, but let's rip a hole in this roof. Let's lower our guy down, because you know what? Jesus is going to have to do something then. That's exactly what they did. They got some rope. They found a way to climb up on the roof of this house. And then they began to hack a hole in the roof. Now, what history says is they began to tear through some of the tiles. This would have been a home where there was like a wooden structure, and then it was like a thatched roof. It would have been, like organic materials, grasses and reeds, and it would have been all put together with mud or dung. That's right. They had to cut through crap to get this guy to Jesus. But that's exactly what they were going to do. And could you imagine Jesus is holding a seminar on God and life and, and everybody's hanging on every word, and all of a sudden it's like, a few people are looking up like, what is happening up there? I think there's something, I don't know. And then all of a sudden, noise, and all of a sudden the first dust particles become down. And some of the people are going, man, I know what those dust particles are made of. And then all of a sudden, daylight begins to appear, and bigger pieces of it are ripped out of place into this gigantic hole. And I always wonder, what's the crowd doing at that point? What are they thinking? Did everybody stop and go, what? Now all of a sudden, this pallet is put over and lower, right in front of Jesus, this paralyzed guy. And then here's the way I picture the story. The guy comes all the way down till he finally touches the floor, right in front of Jesus' nose. And then the three heads peer through the hole. And they had to be thinking to themselves, oh, this was such a bad idea. What were we thinking? Do you know what Jesus did? He looked up and he said, you guys have awesome faith. And he healed the guy. Well, first he forgave the guy's sins. And he did that in order to tick off all of the religious establishment was there, and to make a teaching point that he had the power to do just such a thing. And then he healed the man of his paralyzed condition, and he got up and walked out. Jesus, when he looked up at those guys, what he's really saying is, bold move, guys. I love it. I love it. I'm going to give you exactly what your heart desires. When we read the Bible, we find over and over and over again people making a bold move and God going, awesome. I'm going to bless that. God blesses the bold move. That's kind of been characteristic of the Prairie Chapel as part of our story.